Pankaj, I will call you a little later. I am the puja now. I am the puja now. I will call you a little later.
Namo Ramana. A very warm welcome to all the devotees of Raman Kundra Delhi's Sunday Satsang. We shall be starting with the first session of Vichara Sangraha by Raghav ji in a few minutes. Till then, I would request Narayanan ji to initiate puja. Narayanan ji.
Anandaya Namaha. Om Govindaya Namaha. Shuklam Bharadaram Vishnum Shashivannam Chaturбhujam Prasannavadhanam Dhyaye Sarvabhigno Vasante Ayamurta Samusardostu Yogando Mando Nokrando Ayamurta Samusardostu Tadeva Laganam Sadinam Tadeva Tarabalam Chandravam Vidyanam Devabalam Tadeva Lakshmi Padete Tengriyam Smarami Om Bhuva Om Suha Om Maha Om Jana Om Tava Om Satyam Om Tatsodarvavanyam Bargo Devasya Dhimihi Dhiyo Yona Prachodayat Om Avajyotra Samrudhamurmuswaram Mamopata Samasta Durga Shatvaraki Parmeswar Pichetam Karishyamanaśya Karmanah Nirvighna Prasadatam Ado Vigneswar Pujam Karshye Prithviyam Meru Tulsi Sulam Chantakormo Devada Prithvi Diya Trida Logadaitam Vishnunath Trida Swam Satare Mam Devi Gotram Gurusatanam Agamartam Tu Devanam Kamnatam Tu Rakshakam Kandaravam Karam Yado Devadavanalanjanam Mamapata Samasta Durga Shatvaraki Parmeswar Pichetam Nirvidha Siddhitamado Vigneswar Pujam Karshye Gananandva Ganapati Kummabami Kavim Kavinamo Pasatramam Jeshtarajam Brahmanam Brahmanaspade Anustunam Pulsidhadaram Asmin Garitra Bimbe Mahaganapatim Dhyayami Mahaganapatim Avamayami Om Mahaganapatie Namah Sunam Samarpayami Om Mahaganapatie Namah Argyam Samarpayami Om Mahaganapatie Namah Padyam Samarpayami Om Mahaganapatie Namah Asmaniyam Samarpayami Om Mahaganapatie Namah Upasarika Snanam Samarpayami Om Mahaganapatie Namah Snanandaram Asmaniyam Samarpayami Om Mahaganapatie Namah Vastradatam Akshadam Samarpayami Om Mahaganapatie Namah Yajnovavidartam Akshadam Samarpayami Om Mahaganapatie Namah Gandham Dharayami Samarpayami Om Mahaganapatie Namah Gandhovari Akshadam Samarpayami Om Mahaganapatie Namah Alagaranatam Akshadam Samarpayami Om Mahaganapatie Namah Aritra Kungumam Samarpayami Om Mahaganapatie Namah Pushpai Pujayami Om Sumudaya Namah Om Ekadandaya Namah Om Kapilaya Namah Om Gajagarnagaya Namah Om Lambodharaya Namah Om Vigadaya Namah Om Vignarajaya Namah Om Vinayagaya Namah Om Dhumagedave Namah Om Ganatakshaya Namah Om Balachandraya Namah Om Gajananaya Namah Om Vakratundaya Namah Om Surpagarnaya Namah Om Erambaya Namah Om Skandamurjavaya Namah Om Siddha Vinayagare Namah Om Shankara Moksha Vinayagare Namah Om Atupura Vinayagare Namah Om Mahaganapatie Namah नानाविध परिमल पत्र पुष्पाणि समर्पयामि। धूपार्थं समर्पयामि। दीपार्थं समर्पयामि। अक्षतां समर्पयामि। ओम भूर्भुवस्सुः तत्सवितुर्वरेण्यं भर्गो देवस्य धीमहि धियो यो न प्रचोदयात्। देवसवितुर्वरेण्यं सत्यं दर्शेन प्रसन्नामि। अमृतस्तु अमृतं स्वाहा। ओम प्राणाय स्वाहा। ओम अपानाय स्वाहा। ओम व्यानाय स्वाहा। ओम उदानाय स्वाहा। ओम समानाय स्वाहा। ओम ब्रह्मणे स्वाहा। महागणपतिये नमः। महागणपतिये नमः। महागणपतिये नमः। कुडगण्डातिरसं नैवेद्यं समर्पयामि। मध्ये मध्ये पानीयं समर्पयामि। अमृतोपसां सूत्रापोसं समर्पयामि। कर्पूरं समर्पयामि। नमो नमो गणेशाय नमस्ते विश्वरूपणे निर्वघ्नं कुरु मे कार्यं नमामितं गजानन अगजाननपद्मार्कं गजाननमहर्निशम् अनेकदन्तं भक्तानाम् एकदन्तम् उपास्महे। महागणपतिये नमः। महागणपतिये नमः। महागणपतिये नमः। शङ्करचतुर्थी विनायकरे नमः। शङ्करचतुर्थी विनायकरे नमः। शङ्करतीर्थं विनायकरे नमः। कर्पूरं समर्पयामि। नीराजनं समर्पयामि। नीराजनानन्तरम् आस्मनीयं समर्पयामि। महागणपतिये नमः। महागणपतिये नमः। महागणपतिये नमः। वक्रतुंड महाकाय सूर्यकोटि समप्रभ निर्विघ्नं कुरु मे देव सर्वकार्येषु सर्वदा। गणपति प्रसादं शिरसा कृणामि। ओम ओम भुव ओम स्व ओम मह ओम जन ओम तव ओम सत्यम ओम तत्सवितुर्वरेण्यं भर्गो देवस्य धीमहि धियो यो न प्रचोदयात्। ओम ज्योतिर्समृतं पुरमस्वरम् ममोपात समस्त दुर्द चत्वारासि परमेश्वर प्रीत्यर्थम शुभे शोभने मूर्ते आद्य ब्रह्मण द्वितीय परार्थे श्रीवेदे वराकल्पे वैवस्वत मन्वन्तरे अष्टाविंशतितमे कलियुगे प्रथमे वादे जम्बूद्वीपे भारतवर्षे भरतखण्डे मेरो दक्षिणे पार्श्वे सगाप्ते अस्मिन् वर्तमाने व्यावावृके प्रभवादीनां षष्ट्या संवत्सराणां मध्ये शुभकृतु नाम संवत्सरे दक्षिणायने शरत् ऋतु वृश्चिक मासे शुक्लपक्षे चतुर्थी तिथियां शुभतिथौ भानुवासर युक्तायां पूर्वाषाढ़ नक्षत्र युक्तायां शुभ नक्षत्र शुभ योग शुभकर्ण एवं गुण विशेषण विशिष्टायां अस्यां चतुर्थ्यां शुभतिथौ मम जन्मप्रति एतक्षण पर्यन्तं मध्ये संभावितानां सर्वेषां भावानां सत्य अवरोधार्थं सहकुर्मानं क्षेम सद्धैर्य वीर्य विजय आयुरारोग्य ऐश्वर्याणाम् अभिवृद्ध्यर्थं समस्त मंगलाभ्यर्थं समस्त दुर्दोषशान्त्यर्थं रमण महर्षि प्रसादेन ज्ञान वैराग्य सिद्ध्यर्थं श्री रमण महर्षि पूजां करिष्ये। तदंगम कलश पूजां स करिष्ये। विघ्नेश्वरं यथास्थानं प्रतिष्ठापयामि। सोमनाथे क्षेमाय पुनरागमनाय च। कलशस्य मुखे विष्णुकण्ठे रुद्रसमाधीर्थ मूले तत्र सिद्धितो ब्रह्मा मातृगुणे समृद्धा कुशौ तु सागरा सर्वे सप्तद्विभाव सुन्दरा ऋग्वेदो यजुर्वेदो सामवेदो पदर्वण गंगे सतने गोदावरी सरस्वती नर्मदे सिंधु कावेरी जलेस्मिन् सन्निधं कुरु अंगै सजैता सर्वे कलसांगु समाचरिता आयान्तु देव पूजार्थं दुर्दशकारगा तंबूरा सागरोत्पन्नो विष्णु विष्णु करे देवे से पूजते पर्यव्याजने नमोस्तुते देवो देवालय प्रोक्त जीव देव स्नान अंजान निर्माल्यम सोयाम भवने पूजयेत ओम सकल गुणात्म शक्तियुक्ता योग पीडात्मने नमः आधार शक्तिये नमः मूल प्रकृतिये नमः आदिवराय नमः आदिगुरुमाय नमः अनंताय नमः पृथ्व्यै नमः आदित्यादि नवग्रह देवोप्यो नमः दश दिग्बालेभ्यो नमः गुरुर्ब्रह्मा गुरुर्विष्णु गुरुर्देवो महेश्वरा गुरुसाक्षात् परब्रह्मा तस्मै से गुरवे नमः ओम अस्यति प्राणप्रतिष्ठामन्तस्य ब्रह्मा विष्णु महेश्वरा ऋषिरकिति सामधर्माणि संतांसि सकल जगत स्थिति सम्मार्गारिणी प्राणशक्ति परादेवता आम बीजम हरिम शक्ति क्रोम कीलकम प्राणप्रतिष्ठापने विनियोग आम अंगुष्ठाभ्यां नमः हरिंदर्जनीभ्यां नमः क्रोम मध्यमाभ्यां नमः आम अनाव्याभ्यां नमः हरिंगनिष्ठिकाभ्यां नमः क्रोम कर्दलपुष्टाभ्यां नमः आम हृदयाय नमः हरिं सरसे स्वाहा क्रोम शिगाय वसट आम कौसायम हरिं नेत्रदाय वसट क्रोम अस्त्रदाय पट पुरुवस्वरूपी दिग्बंध ध्यानम रक्तांबोधिस्त बोधोलस तरुणसोडकराब्चे पासं गोदंड मिक्षुत्व मणिगुण पंचबाणात् विप्राणसु कवालंतनेन सितापि नवसोरवट्या देवी वारागौर्णा बहुसुगरी प्राणशक्ति परान ओम आम हरिं क्रोम क्रोम हरिं माम अम यम रम लम वम सम सम्म हम सोम सोम हंस अस्यामूर्तौ जीवंतिष्ठतु अस्यामूर्तौ सर्वेन्द्रियाणि वाङ्मनस्स सस्सोत्र जीव्या प्राणवाक् पाणिपादे वायुस्थानि या कस्ति स्वस्ति सुखं चिरं दृष्टन्तु स्वाहा ओम अस्यसि प्राणप्रतिष्ठामन्तस्य ब्रह्मा विष्णु महेश्वरा ऋषिरकिति सामधर्माणि संतांसि सकल जगत स्थिति सम्मार्गारिणी प्राणशक्ति परादेवता आम बीजम हरिशक्ति क्रोम कीलकम प्राणप्रतिष्ठापने विनियोग आम अंगुष्ठाभ्यां नमः हरिंदर्जनीभ्यां नमः क्रोम मध्यमाभ्यां नमः आम अनाव्याभ्यां नमः हरिंगनिष्ठिकाभ्यां नमः क्रोम कर्दलपुष्टाभ्यां नमः आम हृदयाय नमः हरिं सरसे स्वाहा क्रोम शिगाय वसट आम कौसायम हरिं नेत्रदाय वसट क्रोम अस्त्रदाय पट पूर्ववस्त्र दिग्बंध असुनेदे पुनरस्माक्ष सक्ष पुनः प्राणमे नोइद योगम जोग पश्यमे सूर्यम चिरममे मुनियम हृदयाय स्वस्ति आवाहितो भव सद्दाहितो भव सन्निहितो भव सन्निहितो भव अवगुणितो भव सुब्रतो भव सुब्रसन्नो भव सुमुखो भव वरदो भव प्रसिद्ध प्रसिद्ध स्वामिन् सर्वजगन्नाथ यावत् पूजावसानकं तावत् ध्रुवप्रतिभापावेन बिम्बेऽस्मिन् सन्निधं गुरु नमो भगवती श्री कुशेलाय नमः श्री कुबेराय नमः नमो भगवती श्री कुशेलाय नमः श्री कुबेराय नमः नमो भगवती श्री कुशेलाय नमः कुबेराय नमः चतुर्णोसि मंत्रन पौलसि पत्रपः लक्ष्मी प्रदसी मानंगद प्रिय ईश्वरा recite Ramano Stotram now. श्री गुरुभ्यो नमः गुरुर्ब्रह्मा गुरुर्विष्णु गुरुर्देवो महेश्वरा गुरु साक्षात् परब्रह्मा तस्मै से गुरवे नमः अपार शक्ति सुकुमारी राशोर्य स्वर्णि मात्रं पूर्णं समस्तं गुणायितं तं रमणं कबीरं चिन्ताविनं चिन्तयामि ओम महोसेन महासेन जाताय नमः ओम श्री रमणाय नमः ओम गुरवे नमः ओम अगंड संविदागराय नमः ओम मौजसे नमः ओम कारणोद्भवाय नमः ओम जगत्पितावताराय नमः ओम श्री भूमिनाथास्तलोतिदाय नमः ओम पराशर कुलोत्तंसाय नमः ओम सुंदरातलवप्पलाय नमः ओम कमनीय सुचारित्राय नमः ओम सयायाम्बा सयायवते नमः ओम शोणासुलमोहलीन मानसाय नमः ओम स्वर्णस्तकाय नमः ओम श्रीमद्वादशातमास्त्रे लप्त विद्योदयाय नमः ओम महाशक्तिनिवादेन प्रबुद्धाय नमः ओम परमार्थविदे नमः ओम दिव्यराय नमः ओम पितृप्रदान्वेषिणे नमः ओम इंदुमौलिना पितृपदे नमः ओम पितृराजस्थ सोणशैल प्राप्ताय नमः ओम तपोमयाय नमः ओम उदासीनाय नमः ओम महायोगिने नमः, ओम महोत्साहाय नमः, ओम कुशाग्रदिये नमः, ओम शांत संकल्प संप्रभाय नमः, ओम सुसुंदृसे नमः, ओम सवित्रे नमः, ओम स्थिराय नमः, ओम तपस्वीद सर्वंगाय नमः, ओम बुल्लांबुज विलोचनाय नमः, ओम चंद्रिका सिद्धासत्री मंडिदान मंडलाय नमः, ओम सूतवाट्याम समासीनाय नमः, ओम सूर्यदाखिल विप्रमाय नमः, ओम वेद वेदांत तत्वज्ञाय नमः, ओम चिन्मुत्रे नमः, ओम त्रिगुणाधिकाय नमः, ओम विरूपाक्ष गुहावासाय नमः, ओम विराजत सलाकृतिये नमः, ओम उच्चित्त नयनाय नमः, ओम पूर्णाय नमः, ओम रसिदासन तांडवाय नमः, ओम गंभीराय नमः, ओम परमाचार्याय नमः, ओम सुप्रसन्याय नमः, ओम अभयप्रदाय नमः, ओम दक्षिणासीनिवाय नमः, ओम धीराय नमः, ओम दक्षिणाभिमुखाय नमः, ओम स्वराजे नमः, ओम महर्षिये नमः, ओम भगवते नमः, ओम ईट्याय नमः, ओम भूमविद्या विशारदाय नमः, ओम विमलाय नमः, ओम दीर्घदर्शने नमः, ओम आप्ताय नमः, ओम रुजमार्ग प्रदर्शकाय नमः, ओम समत्रुसे नमः, ओम सत्यत्रुसे नमः, ओम सत्याय नमः, ओम प्रसन्नाय नमः, ओम अमित विक्रमाय नमः, ओम सुकुमाराय नमः, ओम सदानंदाय नमः, ओम मृदुवाचिने नमः, ओम दयार्णवाय नमः, ओम श्री सोणासुर युरुद्भूत स्कंदाश्रम निकेतनाय नमः, ओम सद्दर्शनोपदेष्टने नमः, ओम सद्भक्त वृंद परिप्लुताय नमः, ओम गणेश मुनि प्रिंगेन सेवितात्मशिरोरुहाय नमः, ओम गीतोपदेश सारादि ग्रंथ संसिन्न संशयाय नमः, ओम वर्णाश्रम मदादीदाय नमः, ओम रसक्नाय नमः, ओम सौम्याय नमः, ओम आत्मवदे नमः, ओम सर्वावनिमदस्थानाम् आराध्याय नमः, ओम सर्वसद्गुणिने नमः, ओम आत्मारामाय नमः, ओम महाभागाय नमः, ओम मातृमुक्तिविदायकाय नमः, ओम विनदाय नमः, ओम विनुदाय नमः, ओम विप्राय नमः, ओम मुनीन्द्राय नमः, ओम भावगोज्वलाय नमः, ओम दर्शनादक सम्मानिने नमः, ओम मौनेन स्वात्मबोधकाय नमः, ओम ईर्ष्यादिकर्षानित्याय नमः, ओम स्मरणार्बन्धमोचकाय नमः, ओम अंतस्मीर झंडांशवे नमः, ओम संसारारंभतारकाय नमः, ओम सोनादिष्टरे नमः, ओम आर्तविद्या प्रकाशकाय नमः, ओम अभिच्युत निज प्रज्ञाय नमः, ओम नैसर्गिक महातपसे नमः, ओम कमंडलसराय नमः, ओम सुप्रगोविनवसनाय नमः, ओम गुहाय नमः, ओम दंडवाणीये नमः, ओम कृपापूर्णाय नमः, ओम पवरोग पिशक्वराय नमः, ओम स्कंदाय नमः, ओम देवतमाय नमः, ओम अमर्तयाय नमः, ओम शेनानिये नमः, ओम पुरुषोत्तमाय नमः, ओम नमो भगवते श्री अरुणाचल श्री रमणाय नमः, ओम नमो भगवते श्री अरुणाचल श्री रमणाय नमः, ओम नमो भगवते श्री अरुणाचल श्री रमणाय नमः, नमो भगवते श्री कार्तिकाय नमः, नमो भगवते श्री मुरुगाय नमः, नमो भगवते श्री वल्ली देवाने नमः, नमो भगवते श्री सुब्रमण्याय नमः, नमो भगवते श्री स्वामीनाथने नमः, ओम नमो भगवते श्री दक्षिणामूर्तिये नमः, ओम नमो भगवते श्री नटराजने नमः, नमो भगवते श्री भैरवरे नमः, नमो भगवते श्री नंदिमहेश्वराय नमः, ओम नमो भगवते श्री शिवपार्वतीये नमः, ओम नमः शिवाय नमः, ओम नमः शिवाय नमः, ओम नमः शिवाय नमः, ओम शिवाय नमः, ओम शिवाय नमः, ओम शिवाय नमः। हरि ओम, हरि ओम, हरि ओम। वो किताब का है, किताब है उपदेश सारम। We'll recite उपदेश सारम now. So let us all recite. कर्तुराज्ञया प्रापदे बलम कर्म किंबरम कर्म दज्जडम कृति महददो पदन कारणम फलमसापदम गद निरोधकम ईश्वरार्पितम मे निश्चयाकृतं सिद्धसोदकं मुक्तिसाधकं कायवान्मन कार्यमुत्तमं भोजनं जप चिन्तनं क्रमा जगतैसदी युगदसेवनम् अष्टमूर्तिभृत् देवपूजनम् उद्यमस्तवा उद्यमन्दद सिद्धजं जप ज्ञानमुद्यमम् आज्यधारया श्रोतसानकम् सरलचिन्तनं विरलवरं वेदभावना सौवमित्यसौ भावनाभिधा भावनीमता भावशून्यस भावसुस्थिति भावनाबल भक्तिरुद्धमा इरुस्तरे मन स्वस्थता क्रिया भक्तियोग बोधाश्च निश्चितं वायुरोदना दीयते मन जालभक्षिव रोधसाधनं सिद्धवायव सिद्क्रियायुधा शक्तियोर्धैः शक्तिमूलका लयविनाशने उभयरोदने लयकदं पुनर्भवति नो मृतं प्राणवन्दना लीनमानसम् एकचिन्तना नासमेत्यद दष्टमानसो कृष्टयोगिन कृत्यहस्तिकिं स्वस्तिदं यद दृश्यवारिदं सिद्धमात्मन सिद्वदर्शनं तत्त्वदर्शनं मानसं तु किं मार्गणे हृदे नैव मानसं मार्गार्जवा वृद्धयस्त्वहं वृद्धिमाश्रिता वृद्धयो मनो विद्यहं मन अहमयं कुतो भवति किन्वद ऐपदत्यहं निजविसारणम् अहमिनासवा यमहं दया स्फुरदैरस्वयं परमपूर्णस इदमहं वदा अभिज्ञमन्वहम् अहमलीनके वल्लसत्तया विग्रहेन्द्रिय प्राणतीतम नामजे कथ दज्जडं मय सत्त्ववासिका सिद्भवेदरा श्रद्धया इति सिद्धयायम् ईशजीवयो वेशदीपिता सस्वभावतो वस्तु केवलम् एष आनत स्वात्मदर्शनम् ईशदर्शनम् स्वात्मरूपत आत्मसंस्थिति स्वात्मदर्शनम् आत्मनिर्भया आत्मनिष्ठता ज्ञानवर्जिता ज्ञानहीनजी ज्ञानमस्ति ज्ञातुमन्तरं किं स्वरूपमे आत्मदर्शने अव्यया भवा पूर्णसित्सुखं बन्धमुत्यतिं कम्बरं सुखं विन्दधीयति वस्तुदैविक अहममादिगं निजविमानगं महति तं तवो रमणवागियं महति तं तवो रमणवागियं महति तं तवो रमणवागियम्
Namo Ramana. A very warm welcome to all the devotees for Raman Kendra Delhi's Sunday Satsang, the first of the series of Vichara Sangraha, which shall be addressed to us by Sri Raghav Kumar ji. We have a few new devotees joining us, so let me try and share with them a brief background about Raghav ji, and also for benefit of everyone, a few lines about Vichara Sangraha. Vichara Sangraha or self-inquiry is one of the earliest set of instructions given by Bhagavan in his own handwriting. This consists of a series of questions posed by the devotees between 1900 and 1902 and handwritten answers by Bhagavan. The topics include both the core practice of self-inquiry as well as practices supportive or helpful for self-inquiry. Thus, the needs of diverse types of spiritual aspirants are addressed by Bhagavan. These answers, which we shall be studying, constitute the earliest set of instructions given by Bhagavan in his own handwriting. Raghav ji has been addressing Raman Kendra Delhi's Sunday Satsang for over an year. For some of our new devotees, a brief background about him. Raghav ji is a devotee of Bhagwan Sri Raman Maharshi with a background of Vedanta study under various acharyas of Rishikesh and Uttarkashi over several years. After completing a degree in technology in 1993 and a few years of research in electronics, he was drawn to the exclusive pursuit of the path of self-inquiry. He was blessed to be closely associated with Ramakrishna Mission, Arsha Vidya tradition, and the Adi Shankara Brahma Vidya Peeth Uttarkashi. Since 2001, he divides his time between Uttarkashi and Tiruvannamalai. He occasionally shares what he has learned from the acharyas with fellow devotees. I shall now request Raghav ji to address us. Raghav ji.
Namaste and welcome to this satsang, which we'll be commencing with one of the earliest words written by Bhagavan. Thank you, Anuragji, for that introduction to this text and to Sri Bhagavan's context in which these teachings were given, which we shall be studying. So the idea is that I shall be just reading the English translation of the Vichara Sangraham. That is the word originally used. In English, it translates to a compendium of self-inquiry. And some of you might want to keep even a copy of the book if you wish, or just listen in and allow the passive understanding to happen. Either way, it is quite all right. Incidentally, we are starting this new session of satsangs on the Kartika Deepam festivities commencement day. So the way it goes is that on the full moon day of the solar Kartika Masa, which happens to be on the 6th of December this year, a great lamp is lit upon this holy hill of Arunachala. But 10 days prior to that, the festivities begin, which is today. And so just today morning, there was a grand ceremony in the big temple, the Arunachaleshwara temple here, which is a 1,000-year-old temple to Lord Shiva. It is, as most of you would know, one of the Panchabhuta Sthalas corresponding to the Agni Tattvam. The fire element is represented by Shiva here. And so today they do what is known as the Dhvajarohanam. Dhvajarohanam means they hoist a certain consecrated flag which is an invitation to everyone to come and participate in the festivities. So all the deities, all the devas, all the kinnaras, yakshas, all the divine beings are invited through mantras. And so also all other devotees from people from different parts of the country, they're all invited, so to speak, formally today. So that's the significance of the Dvajarohanam day today. For the record, any of the larger temples in the Vedic tradition, the Agama tradition, will have a huge flag post. So that flag post represents a kind of announcement of the deity's presence there. As a small aside, when many of us modern devotees go and wish to, let's say, pay respects in any temple, we might reflexively do a namaskar, bowing our head down right in front of the innermost sanctum sanctorum, the Garbhagriha, which is not the done thing. Because there is a vahanam, or there are other deities behind you. So you're kind of turning your back to them and placing your feet towards them. So what the people traditionally insist is you come a little out of the Garbhagriha. There you stand and pay your respects to the Lord in any temple. And come out, and where this flag is there, that's where you do your prostration or pranam. So that is the tradition. So because when you do your prostration there, you are in effect contacting or relating to the divine murti, the presence in the entire temple there. So just by the way, how we are expected or injuncted, so to speak, to do your pranam at the Dhajastambha. That's where the sacred flag is consecrated. So you kind of come out of the innermost sanctum and look around and search for the flag. That's where you do your pranam. Because that's where all the deities, all of them kind of enter, or they make their presence felt, including the presence in that temple. So in today's Dvajarohanam was the commencement of the Deepam festivities. So a couple of sentences I thought I'd share with you about the significance of this Kartika Deepam. It's one of the oldest continuous festival celebrated in India. And there are references to this Deepam festival in Arunachala being celebrated even 2,500 years plus. Okay, that's the bare minimum. You have written references saying that, which are 2,500 years old, saying that the Deepam festival was being celebrated. So it's a very hoary antiquity that we are talking of here. And the idea is that lighting of this huge Deepam, which is visible, it's like a huge cauldron in which we light the ghee, the clarified butter, and the Deepam is visible for several kilometers around the Arunachala hill. And that represents, in the Purana tradition, the day Shiva granted Sayujyam, inseparable oneness with Parvati. He granted Parvati Devi's prayer for inseparable oneness with Shiva. That is the significance of the Kartika Deepam day on December 6th. So the story goes that Parvati, goddess Parvati, in a playful way, to play a prank, as it were, on Lord Shiva, came from behind Shiva and closed his eyes with her hands. But then Shiva, being Ishvara, his illumination keeps the whole world in light. And so it wasn't the done thing. The whole world was plunged into darkness, and much misery was inflicted upon all the other jivas in the Bhuloka and other lokas, the story goes. And so Shiva was aghast that Parvati's, wrong action has resulted in so much suffering. And she too feels very remorseful and decides to go and do tapas, or penance, in Arunachala upon the Lord's instruction. So Lord Shiva instructs Parvati to go and expiate that mistake she made, as it were. And she comes to Arunachala and does a lot of penance under the guidance of one Rishi called Rishi Gautama. So that is the Puranic story. And then, and she would do this Giri Pradakshina. In a part of her penance was to do this regular circumambulation around the hill. So it's an important aspect of this Arunachala Sthala. So Parvati Devi, after a lot of penance, on this Kartika Deepam day, received her blessings, and Shiva manifested and made her inseparably one with her. So there's no more separation, which is why on the Kartika Deepam day, Shiva in this temple manifests in a very rarely visible murti called the Ardhanarishwara Murti. So he manifests on that day, and the murti, it's an Utsava Murti. It's like one you use for the celebrations. He comes out, gives his darshan as Ardhanarishwara, in which Shiva and Shakti are united. The right half is Shiva, left half is Shakti. A lot of symbolism here. For those who are interested in that, the right half represents the, the male principle, the yang principle, if you like, as it's used nowadays. And the female principle is the yin principle, as they are saying nowadays, is on the left side, Vama Bhagam. So it implies the balance between the logical and emotional, if you like, faculties in each human being. It implies the balance between action and rest. Okay, action is the right side, and take a restful awareness is left side. So you need a balance between the two. And so in the Ardhanarishwara Tattvam, the half man, half woman Tattvam, Shiva and Shakti are united. And to symbolize or to commemorate that sacred occasion, this Deepam is lit on top of Arunachala hill. It's a very beautiful tradition. Almost 1 million people or more come on that day and even throughout these 10 to 15 days to have their darshan here. And another interesting thing is how Bhagavan Sri Ramana Maharshi has interpreted this significance of this event, saying that the lighting of the Deepam represents that the darkness of I am the body, that ignorance in the form of darkness that I am the body, that darkness is set aside, and the light of knowledge is lit there. And the knowledge in the form of the very truth of the I. So I am the body, that notion is negated, so separation is gone. Instead, I as one with the Lord, that oneness is manifest there, that knowledge takes place. So that Deepam denotes the arising of self-knowledge in our life journey. That is how Bhagavan interprets it. There's a verse, famous verse in Tamil, in the Arunachala Deepa Tattvam, which is chanted every Monday before the Arunachala Mahatmyam. So it's part of the Monday chanting Bhagavan's verse, where he explains the significance of the lighting of the Deepam as the destruction of ignorance of I am the body, and the lighting of the lamp, which is the light of consciousness in all. So you discover your oneness with all that exists. That is the significance of the lighting of the Deepam in a spiritual way. So it's a nice occasion. Today we are blessed to start by Bhagavan's grace, this Satsang on the Vichara Sangraham, self-inquiry. So a few words on this text, and we will then read the text. This text has, as I said, a beautiful background where Bhagavan was barely 20 years old. He was a young lad full of that spiritual tejas in Virupaksha cave. And then Gambhiram Seshaya, one of the earliest devotees, comes to have darshan of Bhagavan. He was a middle level, a kind of higher level government official. So he had a certain standing there in Tiruvannamalai. He comes to have darshan of Bhagavan. He had already read about Swami Vivekananda. Remember, those were the days when India was going through this cultural and spiritual renaissance in the early part of the 20th century. So around 1900, Gambhiram Seshaya, that is the name of the devotee who compiled these teachings, he was reading about Swami Vivekananda and the other teachings given by him. And he was very curious and wanted to go deeper. He comes to Bhagavan. Bhagavan very succinctly and very insightfully answers all his questions. And at that time, it was assumed that Bhagavan was in silence. So Gambhiram Seshaya's questions were asked, and nobody expected Bhagavan to even talk. Later on, Bhagavan says that I was not having any vow of silence. It's just that I was not given to speaking at all because I was so immersed in the self. So no words were really necessary. They never had a context there to be expressed. And so people thought I was in Mauna, but really I never had any vow of silence or anything like that. Nevertheless, the words are so few. So Bhagavan just writes out the answers in his own beautiful handwriting on slips of paper. And Gambhiram Seshaya, the devotee, preserved these slips of paper over 2 years, or 3 years nearly, 1900 to 1902. And these slips of paper, he compiled the contents of those writings of Bhagavan in a small notebook, which was later translated into English. Okay, that is our source here. The translation word to word of the original Vichara Sangraha, which is compiled by Gambhiram Seshaya in his notebook. So that is the background for this book. So it's noteworthy how Bhagavan was so solicitous of the welfare of the devotees. It's not like he was aloof or indifferent. In spite of being immersed in that highest samadhi and always not really interacting the way he was more free and accessible, because he was in that tapas, mode in his life, as it were, in Virupaksha cave, much more austere. And probably people felt, oh, those caves are so intimidating. And yet, when a sincere devotee came, Bhagavan was so courteous and solicitous to actually write down all these answers over and over again for those 3 years. So it's a huge compilation of spiritual material here. And we will be studying that slowly by and by in these satsangs. So my desire is to have a kind of dwelling upon Bhagavan's words. And I hope I provide a context. Just to understand them, I will provide a context. And the words of Bhagavan will speak to us directly. So my role is to just provide a context. And many of the words in English and the metaphors used have a background in the inherent Advaita tradition of India. So when I read them, I'm able to clearly see, oh, Bhagavan has taken this from this reference or this reference. It's so beautiful. And so it is nice to have a little context. It helps us appreciate and understand Bhagavan's words very deeply. So that's my expectation in doing this study. It's a beautiful satsang for me. And I'm happy all of you are here to share in this. So we will now start reading of this text with one Shanti mantras and invocation to Bhagavan. The first one, for those of you who are coming for the first time, it's a shloka, a small shloka offering our salutation to Bhagavan from Kavyakantha Ganapati Muni's Ramana Chatvarimshat. So we will chant that. And the second one is a traditional shloka expressing the oneness between the Guru, Ishvara, the all-pervading Lord, and Dakshinamurti, okay, and the Atman. So Atman and the Guru and Ishvara, all three are the same. So that is the second verse we'll be chanting today. So these two verses will form our regular invocation at the start of each text. The first one to Bhagavan, second one to Dakshinamurti. With that, we will commence the study of this text. Om Vande Shri Ramanashehe Acharyasya Padabjam Yo me Darshayadisham Bhantam Tvantamatitya Ishvaro Gururatmeti Murti Bheda Vibhagine Vyomabhadvyapta Dehaya Dakshinamurtaye Namaha. So these two shlokas, if some of you are interested, I shall send them across later. But also just follow along as we chant. It's very beautiful. So there's also this book, which if you wish, like I said, you can keep a copy of that. It's you might see a mirror image. I'm not sure whether you see it as self-inquiry, it says there. So it's a small booklet, very thin. So it's our reference book of Bhagavan's words. It has been translated into English by a great scholar, Sri T.M.P. Mahadevanji. And he has, assured it's a very literal word-to-word, more or less translation from Tamil. And I have done a generic comparison with by the help of other devotees here to see that it is indeed a very close translation of the Tamil from which it is taken. So we can be rest assured we are actually in touch with the words directly of Bhagavan as we study this. So I shall be coming to the first page, which here happens to be page 1, which is not numbered. It goes like this, with a picture of, Arunachala, it's given there. Self-inquiry, Vichara Sangraha of Bhagavan Sri Ramana Maharshi. Invocation. Is there any way of adoring the Supreme, which is all, except by abiding firmly as that? This is the invocation. This was added later on. This invocation is actually the last 2 lines of one of Bhagavan's other works called the Ulladu Narpadu, translated by Sri Kavyakantha Ganapati Muni. It's very succinct because it expresses how self-inquiry is to be done. In fact, many of the questions that follow are an expansion or an explanation of this, which says, is there any way of adoring the Supreme, which is all, which is all that exists, except by abiding firmly as that? So the translation Sad Darshanam has the same words. This is the translation of that saying. Katham smaramastam ameyamekam tasya smritihi tatra dridhaiva nishtha. That verse is the original Sanskrit, not given here. Katham smaramastam ameyamekam. It goes like that. It's an anushtuk kind of chandas. Katham smaramastam ameyamekam tasya smritis tatra dridhaiva nishtha. So how can we contemplate upon that which is everywhere? Because the contemplator also is that very self. So where is the question of contemplation possible there? So the kind of a logical doubt is raised here, that I can contemplate on something that is different from me. I can meditate on something that is different from me. So sometimes the word meditation is used. Contemplation is reserved for something else. But you can say, how do I meditate on something if it is one with my very swarupa, one with my very innermost self? And Bhagavan says, by firmly abiding as that. So the idea here is that the contemplation here is different from we trying to form a concept or a thought about some object or about some entity or even a form. Instead, we just rest as pure being, pure existence. So you allow the mind, you create a context where the mind is able to resolve into itself, like a wave resolves in the ocean. So you have to create a context and then it happens. So beyond a point, you really cannot force that kind of abiding in the self. So the whole later teaching tells you what it's about, how you go about sort of creating that context where this nishtha happens. Nishtha means nitaram stitihi, constant steady abidance. How does it happen? The rest of this work is to give us the necessary cues and necessary teaching to enable us to do that. So remember that this invocation tells you the essence of the self-inquiry method. The next question is there. So this is like a question-answer format, by the way. So there are in this book about 40 questions with their answers given. The topics covered are diverse topics with the core practice of self-inquiry very much there at the heart. But many other methods too are validated. So that's a very beautiful feature of particularly this work and Upadesha Sara. Many of these texts are very versatile texts. they are able to accommodate the needs of diverse adhikaris. Who are adhikaris? As spiritual aspirants or seekers with different backgrounds. So Bhagavan, as is often said, gave teaching which was ad hominem. You know what is ad hominem? Ad hominem means something that is in keeping with the person in front of him. So for someone, he might as well say, do japa, do mantra repetition. Someone else, he would say, do this, nididhyasana or atma vichara. Somebody else, he might modify it a little. Of course, the central direct sadhana was there very much, but that doesn't amount to invalidation of the other paths. All the other paths are very much validated by Bhagavan, as these early instructions clearly show. So we will read the first of these 40 questions today. Disciple, Master, what is the means to gain the state of eternal bliss devoid of misery? Master. So this is Bhagavan's reply. Apart from the statement in the Vedas that wherever there is body, there is misery, there is also the direct experience of all people. Therefore, one should inquire into one's true nature, which is ever bodiless, and one should remain as such. This is the means to gaining that state. So again, a very overarching framework giving the entire path in a nutshell. So the disciples' question is, how do we gain the state of eternal bliss, ever devoid of misery? A point to note in this very question shows the authenticity of the questioner, because sometimes there is a possibility that this whole self-inquiry is governed or motivated by curiosity to know something. It's not like that. No spiritual pursuit, especially the core pursuit of self-inquiry, can really gain strength by sheer curiosity. I would like to know, like a scientist, I want to know the truth about it. He's just interested in this universe or whatever he's interested in, or everything from insects to the Big Bang. So his curiosity is his motivating factor. In the spiritual pursuit, that doesn't work like that, especially in the longer run, maybe for a short while. Curiosity can never really motivate a person. Why? Because only if the drive and the intense desire is stemming from a very existential core, that pursuit will gain traction. It will continue for a long time, because it's something very deep within me, not just a kind of, if not idle, a kind of shallow curiosity. So that aspect is very, clearly expressed here, saying you want to be devoid of misery. Misery is the key motivator, really. I want dukkha nivritti. So as we say, as the Bhagavan would say in other contexts, dukkha nivritti, freedom from sorrow, devoid of sorrow, is called dukkha nivritti. That, if it is the starting or the key motivator for our pursuit, then of course we sustain it. That is the real authentic source of motivation for the spiritual person. So sometimes it is, blended with this curiosity idea. That's really not that big a deal. And so to gain the state of eternal bliss. So again, see, the disciple has some idea already. You can see he has some wisdom in there inherently, that he wants something that doesn't come and go. So that's why he's asking, what is the state of eternal bliss? Not something that comes and goes. Here again, you can see that there is an implicit, idea which is important. We are not trying to gain some experience here, some kind of special sound and light effects. We don't really have much interest in that. Although there are many such sound and light effects which come across which we come across rather in the spiritual pursuit, they are not really very helpful. Because a person, let's say, gains a nice state, and again he's back where he is, facing the same misery. Well, that's not so great. It's very underwhelming. So instead, this is an eternal state, eternal in the sense, one which doesn't come and go. So we want that freedom from dukkha, which doesn't come and go. So Bhagavan is giving that teaching here. How do we free ourselves from misery for good? And Bhagavan's answer is, apart from the statement in the Vedas. So Bhagavan is at the very commencement so nicely referencing the Veda. He doesn't try to just insinuate himself, although he was fully equipped to do that, because his jnanam was quite direct. And there are exceptions like Bhagavan in the tradition too, like Vamadeva, one great rishi who got the jnana in the very womb of the mother. So he had this prarabdha, meaning this karma that he should be born into the bhuloka. And the very birth and the moment he kind of became self-aware in the womb itself, that, okay, I'm in the body, the jnana spontaneously happened. And a famous shloka is there in the Brihadaranyaka Upanishad saying, Aham manurabhavam suryascha. So I alone had become Manu, the very first man, and Surya, in this case, Surya is the very first born, like Brahma. So I alone became the originator of the universe. So he is identifying with everything. So in the womb, Vamadeva got the jnana. He didn't, really have to go through any sadhana or study or anything like that. No self-inquiry even. It just happened like maybe in a jiffy. We can say self-inquiry happened, but it was very spontaneous there. And similarly, Shukadeva too, of course, received instructions, but there was also so much of pre-existing knowledge there in that great soul. So similarly, Bhagavan, due to the blessing of Ishvara or the way destiny was, had got this very self-knowledge without the need for some external motivation or external upadesha. And that is why Bhagavan is in that sense a great exception. And the jnana too was so powerful, he could help all the devotees understand and appreciate that through his very glance. And so Bhagavan yet references the Vedas, implying that what I am saying is the same as what is in the Vedas. That compatibility, samanvaya is what is being stressed here. Wherever there is body, there is misery. So the very acquisition of a limited embodiment is a source of misery. He's referencing the Veda. The Vedic verse there is yad alpam tad martyam. That which is finite is going to die and create sorrow. Yad alpam tad martyam. Sukham vaiki bhoma. In the Chandogya Upanishad, that famous verse is there. Bhagavan is referencing that. Wherever there is body, there is misery. This is also the direct experience of all people. So not only the Veda doesn't have to come and tell you, okay, you're going to have some misery the moment you are in a body or having this kind of a limited, I am here, I am Mr. So-and-so leading so-and-so life with my biography, my biodata. Well, the moment I have a biodata, that is going to come packaged with misery. The moment we have a resume, that's going to come packaged with some misery. So the jnana is to say, you don't have a resume. You are pure Shuddha Chaitanyam, which has no resume. It never has entered the stream of time. That is the essence of the teaching. So this is the direct experience that misery is there in being embodied. Naisargiko ayam loka vyavaharaha. Shankara is saying that it is a natural experience of everyone. Therefore, one should inquire into one's true nature, which is ever bodiless, and one should remain as such. This is the means to gaining that state. So that is the essence of Bhagavan's teaching, namely inquiry into one's true nature. Koham. So what am I? Who am I? That is the essence which reveals the truth that I am really speaking not inside the body. Even as in a dream, all that exists is within me. Even now, the body is within me. It is a fleeting thought or a steady thought, no doubt, but still a thought, a consolidated and a habitual thought, but comes and goes. So I am not in the body. I am bodiless. I am pure consciousness. The body comes and goes. That is the vision Bhagavan is indicating here. And one should remain as such. This is the means to gaining that state. So that's the interesting part. So if you remain as that Shuddha Chaitanyam without at least temporarily identifying with one's the body and whatever thoughts and whatever is happening, if you're able to just take this step back and stop identifying with whatever is happening, the drama that's happening in one's life, that itself is the essence of the sadhana there. Not easy, no doubt, not easy, but that's where we need to look at or focus. And then Bhagavan goes on to ask, the text goes on to ask the next question, the second question saying, The disciple, what is meant by saying that one should inquire into one's true nature and understand it? So what exactly do you mean one should inquire? What can you elaborate? The disciple is asking. And Bhagavan replies, experiences such as I went, I came, I was, I did, come naturally to everyone. From these experiences, does it not appear that the consciousness I is the subject of those various acts? Inquiry into the true nature of that consciousness and remaining as oneself is the way to understand through inquiry one's true nature. So the English there, of course, is very literal to the Tamil. So it sounds like that. Inquiry into the true nature of what is that consciousness ever available. To say or to appreciate consciousness, you don't need to do any sadhana. You are, and then you experience something, you think of something. That I am is fundamental, a priori, primary. So each moment we are already one with one's true nature. And then we don't look at that or pay attention to that. Instead, we get involved and identify saying, I went, I came, I was, I did. So that I is always coming with some verb there to start with. I went, I came, I was. All these are verbs. So you're identifying as a doer. I am doing this various actions. The moment you say I am a doer, I am caught. If I am fundamentally a doing person, then there is going to be misery. No freedom from misery as long as I feel I am a doer. The kartrutva buddhi, as it's called. So the kartrutva buddhi is packaged with misery. And sadly, therefore, most of humanity, if we take pride in what we have done, then we are going to take misery or derive misery from what we have left undone or not done well. So kartrutvam comes packaged with misery, be it even in small or big actions. And so we don't, from these experiences, I did, I came, I went, etc. You should question yourself, really, are these actions fundamental to my being? And then Bhagavan says, inquire. Does it appear that the consciousness I, does it not appear that the consciousness I is the subject of these various experiences? So that's the first appearance. Of course, I do this, I do that. That's the prima facie experience. If we don't inquire, we feel like that. Upon inquiry, however, it is seen that these actions are just temporarily roles, like waves in the ocean. I am that ocean, these actions just come and go. As a matter of fact, am I really doing something? Where is the doing happening? The hands are moving, thoughts are coming, actions are happening. So you reach a point where these things happen on autopilot, like cruise control in a car. So you're already, each of us is in Ishvara's cruise control mode. All we need to know is take a step back from the sense of doing that I am responsible for everything. And you will quickly see and appreciate it is Ishvara, that cosmic intelligence, who is doing all this. And I remain as that Shuddha Chaitanyam. So Bhagavan is leading us in that direction. To dilute, to start with, this doership. Okay? Kartrutva buddhi is the doership is thought to be diluted by Bhagavan by questioning it, by asking yourself, am I really just a doer? And so inquiry into the true nature of that consciousness and remaining as oneself is the way to understand through inquiry one's true nature. So that is the way to inquire. There is no two ways about it. Unless you look into what is that I, we will not be able to get the understanding of that. So what about the other practices? Well, the rest of this work explains that. The other practices make it much easier to get the depth in self-inquiry. If I were to just directly plunge and ask who am I, you will still get some progress. No harm, absolutely. Everyone can try this. It's not that I shouldn't try self-inquiry until I do some other practices. That's not the case. However, if you were to do some of these other practices, including, as Bhagavan explains later, some pranayama or some japa, it will help. So you could, to be, a very practical person, there is no harm in doing these other very beautiful traditional practices like mantra repetition, etc. But never put yourself down saying, I'm not fit for self-inquiry. Keep the self-inquiry also on, reserve some time for this, and then practice your other, mantra repetition and so on. Both of them are complementary. There is no conflict between them. So this is the second question asked by the disciple. And the third question cuts to the chase. It goes into the very heart of self-inquiry. We will be seeing this even in our next session. But for now, I will read a part of that. How is one to inquire, who am I? The disciple asks. Master, actions such as going and coming belong only to the body. And so when one says, I went, I came, it amounts to saying that the body is I. So that is the implicit assumption Bhagavan is saying. When you say, you think I went, I came, really that statement is, Bhagavan is saying, not logical. Because the body went, the body came. You don't have to say it out aloud. But in your understanding, you're very clear. All actions, all changes are at the level of the body and mind for sure. So, but can the body be said to be consciousness, I? Since the body was not before it was born, and the body is made up of 5 elements, it is non-existent in the state of deep sleep and becomes a corpse when dead. So there are multiple reasons here. Bhagavan has summed up all of that in a very compact way, that you cannot be the body because it was not existent before the physical birth. And it is made up of 5 elements. It is just jada. It is jada means it's inert. So whereas you're conscious, I am aware, I am self-aware, I am aware and I am self-aware. So I cannot be just an inert piece of matter. And it is non-existent in the state of deep sleep. So when sushupti, the deep sleep, is experienced, this entire world resolves into yourself. Well, that's getting ahead of the story, but for now, the body is absent. The physical body is absent in deep sleep, indicating its incidental nature. So just by the way, we will refer to this again, but in deep sleep, both in Bhagavan's vision and elaborated in our regular, study of text, is that consciousness doesn't cease to exist in deep sleep. It is only the mind that is resolved. The thinking faculty is resolved, but consciousness is awake, illuminating that very condition, if you like, of deep sleep. The mind, as well as the projection of the mind into this virtual reality, this whole world, is resolved temporarily, but you don't cease to exist. And the reason or assertion can be done by just recollecting, in whatever vague way be it, how was your deep sleep experience? How did you feel? You will say, I slept well. I had really good sleep. That statement is enough. Without thinking too much about it, if you ask someone, how's your sleep yesterday? And let's say he had good sleep. Oh, I slept well. I had really sound sleep. I was very happy, got really good sleep. That itself shows that I was there. The experiencer of that deep sleep state was there. And he connects with his own I of the previous day as well. You cannot connect with that previous I in the previous day unless you were continuing in that deep sleep state. So just for the record, therefore, consciousness is present in all the states, including deep sleep. The mind alone resolves. So that is why Bhagavan uses that very tarka or yukti logic, saying the body, physical body, is non-existent in the state of deep sleep. Moreover, it becomes a corpse when dead. It loses all its functionalities upon death. All of this indicates that the body cannot be I. The physical gross body cannot be I. And then Bhagavan goes on to say, can this body, which is inert like a log of wood, be said to shine as I, that aham, that constant sense of awareness, which Bhagavan calls I, okay, aham. That cannot be said to belong to the body. Therefore, the I consciousness, which at first arises in respect of the body, is referred to as tatpodam, self-conceit, ego iti, ahankara, avidya, nescience, maya, impurity, mala, or also individual jiva, individual soul, jiva. So these are the various words given to this mysterious entity called the I tied up with the body. Okay? So even this, understanding this one idea is enough. It comes in various words like maya, avidya, And in Tamil, they use the word tarpodam, implying a certain self-conceit, ahankara, egoity, and impurity, mala. So this is used in the Shaiva, texts of Shaiva Siddhanta. Mala is impurity, and also individual jiva, say individual soul or jiva. All of them are just one. Don't have to worry about the different words. All of it boils down to just one mysterious entity, the mix-up between consciousness and matter. Okay, so that is the mix-up. The whole source of misery is that mix-up between I and this or the body here. So that alone Bhagavan says is the referred to in various ways. In the tradition, we also use the word chit, jada, granthi. Chit is consciousness, jada is inert, granthi is the mix-up. It's a knot. In the way gant, it's like a gant. So it's a kind of knot. You need to gently undo the knot, not pull violently, but gently undo the knot by the grace of Bhagavan. And then this knot gets undone, where chit is seen as chit, jada is seen as jada. So that is the way to freedom from misery. And that alone is expounded here. We will see the last sentence in this half of the answer. So can we remain without inquiring into this? Is it not for our redemption through inquiry that all the scriptures declare that the destruction of self-conceit is released? Bhagavan is asking a rhetorical question. Can we remain without inquiring into this? Because it is so fundamental, How can we take for granted I am this without even looking into it? Who told you that you are the body? Whoever told you? Can we prove it? Can somebody prove I am the body? No way he can prove it. He can say, oh, I want the body to be unharmed. I want to protect. That's okay. That's his desire. But there is no logical way to prove that I am the body. And we take for granted that. So Bhagavan is asking a rhetorical question. Can we stay without inquiring into it? It's the natural pursuit or progression in a jiva's journey, in his journey towards freedom from misery. He's going to seek it no matter what. So it's interesting how, many desires can be insinuated into our heads by external stimuli. You're just walking by on the road, you see a billboard. You should, a low-cost loan given to buy a house, okay? And then you just say, I don't need it. Then you go on. Then after a few days, a friend of yours says, it's very good, the real estate, something, whatever market is low, it's good to buy a house. In this way, repeatedly, you get, let's say, some inputs, and then it starts working on you subliminally. I want to buy a house. So this desire, in a mysterious way, comes into your head, and then you might end up taking a loan for which you have to pay, these installments lifelong. So you get caught. So the way some of these desires come is almost insidious. Without your knowledge, they just enter you, and then they start governing your life. And so it's in a way sad. The advertisers have hacked into you. The ads, the makers of these ads have hacked into our psychology. They know how to insinuate desires into our head. But these desires, all said and done, are not intrinsic to you. Left alone, you might not get that desire. But this desire towards self-inquiry, before which you have the freedom from misery desire, these are intrinsic to you. There is no way you can avoid it for long. Some people, for various reasons, maybe not in this lifetime, but the desire to inquire into the self, the desire to be free from misery, the desire to find fullness and completeness is a desire which you didn't create. It is an intrinsic package that comes along with being a jiva, being what you are. So that's where you really cannot escape it. You have to attend to it one way or the other. So that is what the existential pursuit is about. Self-inquiry attends to this pursuit of what am I, which is intrinsic to you. People might pursue it in wrong or mistaken ways, no doubt. But there is no way they can get away from the pursuit, because the desire to be free from misery, the desire to be full and complete and happy is an intrinsic desire. Nobody has insinuated that desire into you. It's very intrinsic. Why? Because it's your very nature. Your very nature is to be of infinite happiness without any limitation. So there is no way you would rest content with anything less than that. which is why Bhagavan rhetorically asks this question. Can you rest content just without inquiring into this? No. That will come one day or the other. People will have to come to self-inquiry because that's very intrinsic to one's very being. So with this, we will close today's satsang and continue this beautiful discussion into Vichara Sangraham. So if some of you want the shlokas, I will send them across, the invocatory shlokas at the end. We'll just chant that at the beginning. The spirit in which, like I said, I want all of you to approach this study is that Bhagavan's words are words of Ishvara, because there is no other intervening, ahankara there. So we don't gloss over. Carefully we see what is Bhagavan trying to say there and absorb the essence of his tattvam. So you're in touch with the Guru when you're dwelling upon the words of the Guru. That's the spirit here. You're in touch with the Guru's heart when you are with the words of the Guru and carefully, openly receiving it. Then you're in touch with the Guru. Okay? With that spirit, we approach this study of Vichara Sangraham. So we'll close with the Shanti mantra and meet again next month. Om Purnamada Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnameva Vasishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Harihi Om Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Harihi Om.
Thank you so much, Raghavji, for starting the sessions on Vichara Sangraha. We shall, of course, meet you again next month on the fourth Sunday of every month. Thank you, sir. The book which you had referred to has also been shared with the devotees through WhatsApp and email. So they would have a copy of it, and I hope they would go through it as we take up the next shloka. Thank you, sir. Namo Ramana. I would now request Narayananji to initiate Akshar Manamalai and Arati. Narayanji.
Akshara Manamalai Shatra Karunagara Ganapatiye Karamarulika Pai Arunachala Shiva Arunachala Shiva Arunachala Shiva Arunachala Arunachala Shiva Arunachala Shiva Arunachala Shiva Arunachala Arunachala mena agame ninai pavar agande virarupa Arunachala அழகு சுந்தரம் போல் அகமும் அபிநமாயிருப்போம் அருணாச்சலா அருணாச்சல சிவ அருணாச்சல சிவ அருணாச்சல சிவ அருணாச்சலா அருணாச்சல சிவ அருணாச்சல சிவ அருணாச்சல சிவ அருணாச்சலா அகமுகுந்தீத்துன் அககுகை சீரையாய் அமர்வித்ததென் கொல் அருணாச்சலா ஆருக்காயனை ஆண்டனை அகிலம் அழித்திடும் அருணாச்சலா அருணாச்சல சிவ அருணாச்சல சிவ அருணாச்சல சிவ அருணாச்சலா அருணாச்சல சிவ அருணாச்சல சிவ அருணாச்சல சிவ அருணாச்சலா இப்பழித்த உனை ஏன் நினைப்பித்தாய் இனி யார் விடுவார் அருணாச்சலா ஈற்றிடும் அன்னையின் தெரிதருள் புரிவோய் இதுவோ உனதருள் அருணாச்சலா अरुणाचल शिव अरुणाचल शिव अरुणाचल शिव अरुणाचल अरुणाचल शिव अरुणाचल शिव अरुणाचल शिव अरुणाचल உனையே மாற்றி ஓடாது உள்ளத்தின் மேல் உறுதி இருப்பாய் அருணாச்சலா ஊர் சுற்றும் உளம்பிடால் உன்னை கண்டு அடங்கிட உன் அழகை காட்டு அருணாச்சலா அருணாச்சல சிவ அருணாச்சல சிவ அருணாச்சல சிவ अरुणाचला अरुणाचल शिव अरुणाचल शिव अरुणाचल शिव अरुणाचला என்னை அழித்தின் போல் என்னை களவாவிடில் இதுவோ ஆண்மை அருணாச்சலா ஏன் இந்த உறக்கம் என்னை பிறரிழுக்க இது உனக்கழகு அருணாச்சலா அருணாச்சல சிவ அருணாச்சல சிவ அருணாச்சல சிவ அருணாச்சலா அருணாச்சல சிவ அருணாச்சல சிவ அருணாச்சல சிவ அருணாச்சலா ஐம்புல கள்வன் அகத்தினில் புகும்போல் அகத்தில் நீலையோ அருணாச்சலா ஒருவனாம் உன்னை ஒளித்தவர் வருவான் உன்சூதே இது அருணாச்சலா அருணாச்சல சிவ அருணாச்சல சிவ அருணாச்சல சிவ அருணாச்சலா अरुणाचल शिव अरुणाचल शिव अरुणाचल शिव अरुणाचला ஓங்காரம் பொருள் உயர்வில்லை உனை யார் அறிவார் அருணாச்சலா ஔவை போல் எனக்குன் அருளை தந்து என்னை ஆழ்வது உன் கடன் அருணாச்சலா அருணாச்சல சிவ அருணாச்சல சிவ அருணாச்சல சிவ அருணாச்சலா அருணாச்சல சிவ அருணாச்சல சிவ அருணாச்சல சிவ அருணாச்சலா அருணாச்சல சிவ அருணாச்சலா அருணாச்சல சிவ அருணாச்சலா அருணாச்சலம் வாழி அன்பர்களும் வாழி அக்ஷரமண மாலை வாழி भुवस्वः तत्सवितुर्वरेण्यं भर्गो देवस्य धीमहि धियो यो न प्रचोदयात् देवदलितप्रस्वसत्यं दर्नेन प्रसञ्जामि अमृतस्वामी स्वाहा ओम प्राणाय स्वाहा वाणी स्वाहा व्यानाय स्वाहा ओम उदानाय स्वाहा ओम समानाय स्वाहा ब्रह्मणे स्वाहा अरुणाचल श्री रमणाय नमः अरुणाचल श्री रमणाय नमः अरुणाचल श्री रमणाय नमः कात्यायन मुर्गावली देवन सुब्रमण्याय स्वामीनाथन दक्षिणामूर्ति नटराजा भैरवानंदी महेश्वराय शिव पार्वती नमो नमः शिवाय नमः ओम नमः शिवाय नमः ओम नमः शिवाय नमः ओम नमः शिवाय ओम शिवाय नमः ओम शिवाय नमः ओम शिवाय नमः पुरगंडाधिरसं नैवेद्यं समर्पयामि मध्ये मध्ये पानीयं समर्पयामि अमृतोपचारोत्तरावोसं समर्पयामि नीराजनं समर्पयामि नीराजनं आसमनीयं समर्पयामि उगीबल समाहितं नागवल्ली तलयुर्धं कर्पूर्ण सूर्णसत्तं प्रदीप्तां कर्पूर नीराजनं श्री रमण महर्षि की समर्पयामि पुष्पवान् प्रजावान् पशुमान् भवति चन्द्रमा वावा पुष्पं पुष्पं पुष्पवान् प्रजावान् पशुमान् भवति ओम तत् ब्रह्मा ओम तत् वायु ओम तदात्मा ओम तत् सत्यम ओम तत् सर्वम ओम तत् पुरोरमः अंतर्गति बोधे गुहायां विश्वमूर्तिषु त्वं यज्ञः त्वं वसत्कारः त्वं इन्द्रः त्वं रुद्रः त्वं विष्णुः त्वं ब्रह्म त्वं प्रजापति ओम तथा वो ज्योतिर्षो अमृतं पुरुषरो न कर्मणा न प्रजयातने नित्यानेके अमृतत्वमानसु परेण नाहं नीतं गुहायां विप्राजते दत्यदयो विसन्ति वेदांत विज्ञान से नित्यदाता संन्यास योगातने शुद्ध सत्त्वाः ते ब्रह्मलोके परान्तकाले परामृतात् परिमुच्यन्ते सर्वे तारं विभावं परमेश्वरभूतं यत् पुण्डरीकं पुरमत्य सकुंसलं तत्राविद्धकरमक्कगनं विशोभत् तस्मिन् यजन्तं दशभावित्यं यो वेदातो स्वरप्रोक्तो वेदान्तस्य प्रतिष्ठितः तस्य प्रकृतिलीनस्य परमहेश्वरः मंत्रपुष्पं रमण महर्षि मंत्रपुष्पं श्री कार्तिकेय दुर्गा वल्ली देवानिक्यं मंत्रपुष्पं नटराजं मंत्रपुष्पं शिव पार्वतीक्यं समर्पयामि ओम तत्व ब्रह्मार्पणमस्तु हरि ओम हरि ओम हरि ओम हरि ओम हरि ओम यानि यानि सर्वपापानि जन्मान्तरकृतानि च तानि तानि प्रयच्छन्ति प्रदक्षिणपदे पदे अरुण गणेशाय गोविंदाय नमः हरि ओम हरि ओम हरि ओम
Namo Ramana. This brings us to the closure of today's Sunday Satsang with Raghav ji for the sessions on Vichara Sangraha. We shall reconvene next month, same day. Namo Ramana.